What turns a broke English teacher who failed 30 job interviews into the founder of a $500 billion empire? Spoiler alert, it's not what Silicon Valley would tell you. Hey there, ambitious friends! Today we're unpacking the real story behind one of business's greatest underdogs, Jack Ma, the man who built Alibaba with no tech background, no family connections, and no startup capital. But here's what makes this special. I've distilled Jack's unconventional wisdom into 12 actionable lessons that can transform your approach to business and life, regardless of where you're starting from. We'll explore 3 game-changing areas today. First, the mindset shifts that allowed Jack to see opportunities where others saw obstacles. Second, the strategic decisions that helped him defeat giants like eBay and Amazon on his home turf. And finally, the leadership principles that built a $500 billion ecosystem. Plus, stay until the end for the surprising lesson Jack taught us through his unexpected retirement, something most founders never master. Let's start with the mindset that turned rejection into rocket fuel. Jack Ma might hold the world record for high-profile rejections. Harvard rejected him not once but 10 times. Out of 24 KFC applicants, he was the only one not hired. The police told him he wasn't good enough. Most of us would have given up, but Jack, he framed rejection differently. I told myself, someday I'll go back and speak at Harvard as a successful man. When you've been rejected so many times, you no longer fear it. Jack didn't just tolerate rejection, he collected it like badges of honor. When 30 companies rejected his job applications, he didn't think, "What's wrong with me?" He thought, "What's wrong with them?" This rejection resilience became Alibaba's superpower when investors and competitors dismissed his vision for Chinese e-commerce. Which brings us to the second mindset shift, believing when absolutely no one else does. When Jack founded Alibaba in 1999, only 1% of China was online. Most people had never used a credit card. Delivery infrastructure barely existed. The experts called him crazy. We know nothing about technology, but our advantage is that we know nothing about technology. We know people. While Silicon Valley obsessed over algorithms, Jack focused on human psychology and trust. He didn't need to be the smartest technologist. He just needed to understand what Chinese consumers and merchants actually needed. Ask yourself, what future can you see that others are missing? What problem are you uniquely positioned to solve because of your disadvantages, not despite them? Quick question. How many times did you shop online last month? For most of us, it's second nature now. But imagine a world where nobody trusted internet payments, where most people didn't have computers, where the idea of buying something without seeing it first seemed completely insane. That was Jack Ma's starting point. And speaking of starting points, did you know that Alibaba wasn't chosen because of the open sesame tale? Jack picked it because when he asked random people around the world if they knew the name Alibaba, everyone from taxi drivers to waiters said yes. Global recognition from day one. That's thinking ahead. Now let's learn the strategic moves that helped Alibaba defeat giants with 1,000 times more resources. When eBay entered China in 2002, they had 85% market share and billions in cash. Their CEO publicly declared they would bury Alibaba. Jack's response? eBay may be a shark in the ocean, but we are a crocodile in the Yangtze River. If we fight in the ocean, we lose. But if we fight in the river, we win. This wasn't just a clever soundbite, it was brilliant strategy. Jack didn't try to beat eBay at their own game. Instead, he created an entirely different game where local knowledge was the advantage. While eBay charged listing fees, Taobao was completely free. While eBay offered limited communication, Taobao built in chat features because Chinese shoppers love to haggle and ask questions. While eBay focused on structured data, Taobao embraced the chaotic, bazaar-like atmosphere Chinese consumers were familiar with. The result? By 2007, eBay essentially surrendered the Chinese market and Taobao dominated. The lesson isn't just about knowing your local market, it's about turning your competitors' strengths into weaknesses. But Jack's true masterstroke was solving the trust problem that was killing e-commerce in China. In a cash economy with rampant counterfeiting, nobody trusted online payments. The solution? Alipay's escrow system. When you purchased something, your money went to Alibaba first, not the seller. Only when you confirmed receiving the item would Alibaba release the funds. This simple innovation unlocked billions in transactions. The genius wasn't the technology, it was understanding the human problem. Jack once said, "I'm not a tech guy, I'm a guy who understands people's fears and hopes." That's the difference between a feature and a breakthrough. This people-first approach led to Jack's next strategic innovation, building a complete ecosystem rather than just a company. While Amazon was building warehouses to sell directly to consumers, Jack took the opposite approach. Alibaba doesn't compete with sellers, it empowers them. The company built Alibaba.com for B2B, Taobao for consumer-to-consumer, Tmall for premium brands, Alipay for payments, Cainiao for logistics, and AliCloud for computing. By 2020, this ecosystem had helped create over 40 million jobs and given millions of small businesses access to global markets. The lesson? Sometimes the most powerful business model isn't selling things yourself, it's creating the infrastructure that lets others succeed. These strategies matter because they challenge everything we're taught about business success. We're told we need technical expertise, massive funding, and first-mover advantage. Jack had none of these. What he understood is that business isn't just about products or technology, it's about solving human problems. The companies that last aren't just the ones with the best technology, but those that build the most trust and create the most value for others. Jack found a way to turn China's challenges, low trust, limited internet access, developing logistics, into competitive advantages. Now for the most powerful part, the leadership principles that allowed Jack to build and sustain Alibaba's growth. The first leadership principle, Jack's unconventional success formula: customers first, employees second, shareholders third. Wall Street hated it, investors questioned it, but Jack never wavered. If your customers are happy, your employees are happy. If your employees are happy, your shareholders will be happy eventually. This wasn't just talk. When facing short-term profit pressures, Jack consistently chose long-term customer value. When Taobao launched against eBay, they made it completely free for years, burning cash but winning customer loyalty forever. The second leadership principle might be even more surprising. Jack openly admits, "I know nothing about technology and I know nothing about finance." His secret? Hiring people far smarter than himself in those areas. My job is to make sure the smart people work together and believe in the vision. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. At Alibaba, they call it hiring heroes, not liegemen. Jack focuses on vision, culture, and motivation, while technical experts handle execution. This takes incredible security in your own value as a leader. And that brings us to perhaps his greatest leadership skill: storytelling. Without technical brilliance or family connections, how did Jack convince top talent and investors to join him? Stories that painted an irresistible future. Jack Ma might be the greatest business storyteller alive. When investors doubted Alibaba, he didn't show spreadsheets. He shared stories of small business owners whose lives were transformed. His presentations weren't technical, they were emotional. Just listen to how he framed challenges. Today is difficult. Tomorrow will be more difficult. But the day after tomorrow will be beautiful. Most people die tomorrow evening. Who wouldn't want to follow a leader who can make even difficulties sound like part of an epic journey? The final leadership principle: solving for tomorrow, not just today. While competitors optimize for quarterly results, Jack built for decades ahead. When smartphone adoption was still low in China, Jack went all in on mobile. When most companies were cautious about the cloud, Alibaba invested billions in AliCloud. He wasn't reacting to market demands, he was anticipating them. We're not focused on the next quarter, we're focused on the next generation. This long-term thinking extended beyond technology. Jack launched massive initiatives to bring e-commerce to rural villages, knowing it might take years to pay off. Today those investments are transforming China's countryside. The question for all of us, what would you do differently if you were building for 2030, not just next quarter? Let's quickly recap what we've covered. The mindset shifts. Embracing rejection as feedback and believing in your vision when no one else does. The strategic moves, turning competitors' strengths into weaknesses, solving trust problems, and building ecosystems, not just companies. The leadership principles, putting customers first, hiring people smarter than yourself, mastering storytelling and thinking generationally rather than quarterly. These 12 lessons work together as a system. You don't need to implement them all at once. Even just one or two can transform your approach to business challenges. Now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 12 lessons resonates most with your current business challenges? Is it embracing rejection, thinking long-term, or perhaps putting customers truly first? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this valuable, please hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm show this video to other entrepreneurs who could benefit. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want more content breaking down business success principles from unexpected places. I post new videos every Thursday. And if you know someone struggling to get their business off the ground, sharing this video might be exactly the perspective shift they need. For those of you who stayed until the end, here's the final and perhaps most surprising lesson from Jack Ma's journey: knowing when to walk away. At just 55 years old, at the height of his power and influence, Jack stepped down as Alibaba's chairman to return to his first love, education. I'm still young, I want to return to education and do what I love while I still can. This wasn't a sudden decision. Jack had prepared his succession for years, identifying leaders who could take Alibaba into its next chapter. He recognized that the skills that built Alibaba might not be the same ones needed to sustain it. How many founders can say they've built something truly lasting? Something that thrives even when they step away? Jack understood that true legacy isn't measured by how long you hold on to control, but by how well the organization functions without you. Whether you're leading a global enterprise or just starting your entrepreneurial journey, this might be the hardest but most important question to ask. Am I still the right person for tomorrow's challenges? From that small apartment in Hangzhou to a $500 billion empire, Jack Ma's journey reminds us that vision beats resources, persistence beats talent, and understanding people beats understanding technology. Thank you for exploring these lessons with me today. Remember, success leaves clues, and sometimes the most valuable ones come from the most unexpected places. See you in the next video. Until then, keep thinking differently. Which lesson will you apply first? Let me know in the comments.